Issue number 4, Assemble. Our remaining hero teams don't have enough entries to warrant their own videos, so we're assembling them all into a single video. We'll cover Evil, Masked, Vision, and Xtra Heroes, then wrap things up with some tantalizing trivia and outstanding outliers. Part 1, Evil. Jaden experiences an incredible journey full of twists and turns throughout GX, but perhaps the most memorable was his brief stint as the Supreme King. A personality brought to the surface by Yubel before the two combined their spirits, the Supreme King sought to consume the souls of duelists to complete the legendary Super Polymerization, arguably the most powerful fusion spell ever printed, even in paper. The Supreme King would pivot to Evil Heroes as his deck of choice, though not completely abandoning Elemental Heroes, as many of them are required for fusion material. A lot of them even got some sweet alternate arts to fit the aesthetic. Still waiting on that Wildheart one, by the way. Oh, and it should be noted that all Evil Heroes are Fiend monsters.
Evil Hero Infernal Prodigy is a level 2 Dark Monster with 300 attack and 600 defense, and can be special summoned from your hand if you control no monsters. Also, once per turn during the end phase in which it was tributed, for the tribute summon of a hero monster, you get to draw a card. This can be very helpful in the summon of your bigger heroes, especially Malicious Edge, which we'll get into a bit, but could otherwise have value as a free special summon for Link plays in the modern era. But what spooks me is that this monster shares the same level and battle stat as Hero Kit. I guess the little scrapper took Nova's advice a little too far.
Evil Hero Infernal Gainer is a level 4 Earth monster with 1600 attack and 0 defense. During your main phase 1, you can banish them from the field, then target a fiend monster you control. That target can make a second attack during each battle phase while you control that face-up monster, and Infernal Gainer is special summoned back in attack position after your second standby phase after activation. So not only does this double the threat of your bigger Evil Heroes, you can just toss this into any fiend deck for the same results. Fabled, Infernoid, Unchained, you can use this monster to help your bosses make some serious gains. Evil Hero Malicious Edge is a level 7 Earth monster with 2600 attack and 1800 defense. If your opponent controls any number of monsters, you can tribute summon them face up using a single tribute and deals piercing battle damage. This is a vastly improved version of Blade Edge, giving you the option to tribute with less material if your opponent has any kind of board presence. And since Infernal Prodigy is a free special summon you can use as tribute that gets you a draw, you can deploy this card quickly and efficiently. And on top of that, they're a very accomplished cosplayer. Look, they're even showing off their award-winning Valdo costume. Evil Hero Sinister Necrom is a level 5 Dark Monster with 1600 attack and 1800 defense, and you can banish them from the grave to special summon an Evil Hero from your hand or deck, except another copy of itself. Elemental Hero Necroshade has joined the dark side while maintaining an effect that similarly helps you get big monsters onto the field, but in a much more powerful way. However, the pool of monsters you can actually summon with them is still quite small, and only Infernal Gainer and Malicious Edge are really effective targets. This may seem like a high value card, but it misleads you in a very sinister way.
Evil Hero Dusted Gold is a level 4 light monster with 2100 attack and 800 defense. You can discard them to add a Dark Fusion, or a card that specifically lists Dark Fusion, from your deck to your hand, except another copy of itself. They also can't attack unless you control a fusion monster. Much like how Necroshade is going through a villain arc at the moment, so too is Elemental Hero Captain Gold. And they've really stepped up their game, helping you access fusion spells that will access your Evil Hero team, including one of the most powerful end-board heroes in the game. It's certainly a great excuse to...
What's up?
Do I have to say it?
Of course you have to say it. People love puns.
Okay. It's certainly a great excuse to dust off your old hero deck. I'm not getting paid for this.
Dark Fusion is a normal spell that fusion summons a Fiend fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material, and the turn it's fusion summoned, it can't be targeted by your opponent's card effects. This encompasses all of your Evil Hero fusions, so on top of being generally better versions of their original counterparts, they also gain temporary targeting protection, which has actually become more important as the game's evolved. And because it can be used generally with Fiend fusions, you can also run it in DDDs and Fright Furs, so cards like Infinite Impermanence don't hit that huge target those fusions would paint on your back. Dark Calling is a normal spell that fusion summons a fusion monster that must be special summoned by Dark Fusion using materials from your hand or grave, and is treated as a fusion summon by Dark Fusion. So it's effectively the miracle fusion of evil heroes, trading in targeting protection for greater ease of summoning. And honestly, it's a pretty good trade-off. Having a one-card fusion monster is a lot better than sinking a whole bunch of material into the same monster just to give it temporary protection. You don't get the fun of splashing it into other archetypes, but the amount of value you get out of this card calls to me. Now it's time to talk about the evil hero fusions. They're all still fiends, can only be fusion summoned by the effect of Dark Fusion, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. Many of them use elemental heroes as material, resulting in evil versions of the monsters that we normally fuse for, which are generally just better, but are held back by the fact you can only fusion summon them with Dark Fusion. Evil Hero Inferno Wing is a level 6 fire monster with 2100 attack and 1200 defense, requiring elemental heroes Avion and Burstinatrix. They deal piercing battle damage, and when they destroy a monster by battle and send it to the grave, you burn your opponent for that monster's attack or defense, whichever is higher. Now this is a game ender. Combine this with a way to put your opponent's monster in defense position, especially ones with high attack but low defense, and you can dish out more than 4,000 points of damage off of a single attack. It'll really make your opponent feel the burn. Evil Hero Infernal Sniper is a level 6 fire monster with 2000 attack and 2500 defense, requiring elemental heroes Clayman and Burstinatrix, and they cannot be destroyed by spell cards. During each of your standby phases, you inflict 1000 points of damage to your opponent, though they must be in face-up defense position to activate and resolve the effect. This card takes away a lot of the baggage Rampart Blaster had. You don't have to worry about any attack shenanigans, it just deals a flat 1000 points of damage, and it doesn't even care whether or not your opponent has monsters. Then it just slaps on an anti-dark hole coating just to be safe. This makes Infernal Sniper a stun player's best friend. It's like if Wave Motion Cannon could protect your life points.
Evil Hero Lightning Golem is a level 6 light monster with 2400 attack and 15 defense. It requires elemental heroes Sparkman and Clayman. Once per turn, you can target a monster on the field and destroy it. That's it. No discard, no worrying about attack value or positions. You just pop a monster. It's also got a huge upgrade in terms of armor. It's way more sleek. Its color scheme is so much more interesting to look at, and has just the right amount of edge. It certainly is the way to go. Did I really just say that?
Evil Hero Wild Cyclone is a level 8 Earth monster with 1900 attack and 2300 defense, requiring elemental heroes Avion and Wildheart. If they attack, your opponent cannot activate spell and trap cards until the end of the damage step, and when they inflict battle damage to your opponent, you destroy all face-down spells and traps your opponent controls. I wouldn't call this strictly better than Wild Wingman, but I would still say it's the better card overall. If your opponent's back row can be freely activated, they'll flip it before the battle phase regardless of which version you use, but Wild Cyclone fixes the issue of having battle-based spell and trap removal. You just make it so your opponent can't activate them. And once the effect resolves, you've cleared the way for the rest of your team. This card is wild. Evil Hero Dark Gaia is a level 8 Earth monster with question mark attack and 0 defense, requiring a fiend monster and a rock monster as material, and their original attack is equal to the combined original attack of its fusion material. When Dark Gaia declares an attack, you can change all defense position monsters your opponent controls to face-up attack position, and flip effects are not activated. Now, the observant among you might have seen that evil heroes don't have a rock monster. Heck, heroes don't have a rock monster in general. So what's the deal? Well, in the anime, Dark Gaia is made by combining one of the Supreme King's evil heroes with Jim Crocodile Cook's Gaia Plate the Earth Giant by way of super polymerization. Which, you know, you can't do in paper, but the anime is wild like that. In proper Yu-Gi-Oh!, it's opened the way for people to jam increasingly large Fiend and Rock-type monsters into their deck, so they can use Dark Calling to make a whopper of a beater that, because of its effect, will always get in for a huge chunk of damage, helping you to achieve a landslide victory. Evil Hero Malicious Fiend is a level 8 fire monster with 3800 attack and 2100 defense, requiring Evil Hero Malicious Edge and a level 6 or higher fiend monster. During your opponent's battle phase, all monsters your opponent controls are changed to attack position and must attack Malicious Fiend if able. This card is kind of the opposite of Dark Gaia. Instead of finding a single point on your opponent's field you can exploit for massive damage, you punish them for going to the battle phase with a bunch of smaller monsters, or even bigger ones. There are very few monsters that can get over 3500 by themselves, though the catch is that even a single one can attack over Malicious Fiend to turn the effect off. But if you can apply some more stat boosting effects to make Malicious Fiend even bigger, it'll certainly help you take the edge off of those worries.
Evil Hero Malicious Bane is what you get when Malicious Edge gets swole for the summer. This boss monster needs any evil hero and any monster with a level of 5 or higher. Bane upgrades Edge's effect from piercing damage to a full-on board wipe for any of your opponent's monsters with equal or less attack than Bane, and with stats of 3000 across the board, it's pretty unlikely they'll have anything bigger. And when they are destroyed, your monster is going to gain 200 attack points for each monster destroyed by this effect. Now combine this with the attack boost and arsenal of Dread Decimator, Sunrise or Honest Neos, and you have the supreme king of hero bosses. Anything this card doesn't destroy with its effect will bow down before the king in the battle phase. However, the most evil thing about this card? Well, it's got to be the price point.
Supreme King's Castle is a field spell that allows you to fusion summon for any of your Evil Hero fusions with cards other than Dark Fusion. Once per turn, during damage calculation, if your Fiend monster battles an opponent's monster, you can send an Evil Hero from your deck or extra deck to the grave, and your monster gains attack equal to the level of the sent monster times 200 until the end of the turn. So if you want to play Evil Heroes, but don't want to give up the flexibility of polymerization, this is the card for you. And not only does it provide a boost to any of your evil heroes, it can also set up material in your grave to use with Dark Calling. But more importantly than that, it has all the premium amenities. Lava Moat, constantly churning thunderstorms, and an all-granite aesthetic makes for the perfect locale to have an epic final battle with your rival of choice.
Evil Mind is a normal spell that you can activate if you control a Fiend monster, and you choose one of the following effects depending on the number of monsters in your opponent's grave. If it's 1 or more, you draw a card. With 4 or more, you get to add a hero monster or Dark Fusion from your deck to your hand, and with 10 or more, you can add a polymerization spell or fusion spell from your deck to your hand. It's a shame you can't stack all of these effects if you meet the requirements, but I suppose a draw plus 2 searches might be a little too much advantage, especially since it's never been easier to throw a bunch of monsters into the grave. But even at its worst, it's an upstart goblin with a hard once per turn downside if you're running a Fiend deck, and once the game has progressed to a point where your opponent's yard is filled with monsters, you can search out some of the most powerful spells ever printed. You know, if you have a mind to do so. And while not an evil hero themselves, this monster is clearly meant to be used with them. Xtra Hero Infernal Devicer is a Link 2 Dark Fiend monster with 1700 attack, requiring 2 hero monsters as material. If Link summoned, you can reveal a hero fusion monster from your extra deck, and if you do, add up to 2 of the fusion materials specifically listed on that card, with different names from your deck to your hand, but you cannot special summon monsters the turn you activate that effect, except hero monsters. Also, Fiend monsters Infernal Devicer points to gain attack and defense equal to that monster's own level times 100. While you can use this to search out material you don't want to see in your opening hand like Avion or Burstinatrix, its attack boost helps turn Infernal Gainer into a 2000 attack normal summon, puts Inferno Wing at a ferocious 2700 attack, and puts Malicious Bane's starting attack value at 3800. So it's a pretty strong card to assemble your game plan, so long as your opponent leaves you to your own devices. Part 2? Masked. While Jaden Yuki is known for playing elemental heroes, in the manga the deck actually originates with a character called Koyo Hibiki, Jaden's mentor. When this 3-time Duel Monster World Champion fell into a coma due to some Shadow Game shenanigans, his deck was entrusted to Jaden for most of the manga. However, Jaden would eventually pick up Masked Heroes, switching between the 2 decks until finally returning elemental heroes to their rightful owner once the big bad of the GX manga had been defeated, and Koyo was able to duel once again. Aesthetically, the Masked Heroes are based on the tokusatsu juggernaut Kamen Rider, but I know even less about that than I do about American comics, so now it's time for all of you to teach me by dropping all that sweet Kamen Rider trivia in the comments. All the Masked Heroes are warriors, and they can only be special summoned by the effect of Mask Change. So before we get into the materialist fusions by way of transformation summoning, let's cover their spell cards.
Mask Change is a quick play spell that has you targeting a hero monster you control. You send it to the graveyard, and after that, if it left the field because of that effect, you special summon a masked hero from your extra deck with the same attribute as that monster when it was on the field, or original attribute if it ended up being face downwards into the graveyard. This will be your primary means of deploying your masked heroes, turning things like Shadow Mists and Solid Soldiers into Dark Lords and Dions respectively, and because it's loaded onto a quick play spell, they can hit the field whenever it's most convenient. Whenever you're looking to punish your opponent, or searching cards out of nowhere, or just trying to pile on more damage to close out a game, this card is a Mask Change you can believe in.
Mask Change 2 is a quick play spell that has you discard a card, then target a face-up monster you control that has a level. You send it to the graveyard, and after that, if it left the field because of that effect, you special summon a masked hero monster from your extra deck with the same attribute and a higher level than the sent monster had on the field, using their original attribute and level if it gets flipped face down before being sent to the grave. And a summon from Mask Change 2 counts as being summoned by the original Mask Change. While this can be used to splash masked heroes in just about anything, many of them rely on other hero cards to make the most of their effect. And cards that don't, like Vapor or Divine Wind, don't have effects that really warrant using up deck space. But Dark Law is the exception, who's extremely powerful in just about any matchup. Dark decks would fall over themselves trying to find a way to fit these cards into their deck. Locking out the grave is such a monumental blow that most people didn't even think twice about its inclusion.
Form Change is a quick play spell that has you targeting any hero fusion monster you control. You return it to the extra deck, then special summon a masked hero from your extra deck with the same level as that monster's original level, but with a different name. And this is also treated as being summoned by Mask Change. This is a fairly unique follow-up to standard Mask Change plays, as it allows you to access monsters you otherwise wouldn't have the attribute for. For instance, if you only have access to Stratos on board and not Shadow Mist, you can Mask Change them into Blast, use their effect, then Form Change them into Dark Law. Or Mask Change a Prisma into a Koga, reduce a monster's attack, then Form Change into Diane to run over them for a free summon. It may not see a lot of play, but if masked heroes ever get more focus on them, it'll be in good form. Masked Charge is a normal spell that has you targeting a hero monster and a change quick play spell in your grave and adding them to your hand. Just a quick, simple +1 that gives you all the material you need to get back into the masked hero game so they can lead to the charge.
Now it's time for the fusions. Masked Hero Blast is a level 6 wind monster with 2200 attack and 1800 defense, and if it's special summoned, you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls and its attack becomes half its current attack permanently. Also, as a quick effect, you can pay 500 life points to target a spell or trap your opponent controls and return it to the hand. It's not quite as permanent as hard removal, but it does get around destruction triggers against certain cards like Waking the Dragon. And much like its elemental hero counterpart Great Tornado, it helps to soften up an opponent's monster so you can put them on blast. No? Okay.
Masked Hero Dark Law is a level 6 dark monster with 2400 attack and 1800 defense, and while they're on the field, all cards sent to your opponent's graveyard are banished instead. Once per turn, if your opponent adds a card from their deck to their hand, except during the draw phase or damage step, you can banish a random card from your opponent's hand. This is the card that put the Masked Heroes on the map. Before Heroes Strike Structure Deck, the most they could accomplish was Absolute Zero into Acid plays, which were very strong, don't get me wrong, but required a lot of specific resources to pull off. But now, especially with the assistance of Shadow Mist, Dark Law could hit the field early and derail an entire game plan all on its own, shutting down advantage engines and making hand-fixing effects much riskier. So it's kinda like a proto-Thunder Dragon Colossus in that regard, using powerful floodgate effects to really lay down the law. Also, I just want to point out that it kinda looks like Kamen Rider Amazon. I think it might have predicted that 2016 overly edgy reboot. Toothless my ass, Shirakura.
Masked Hero Goka is a level 6 fire monster with 2200 attack and 1800 defense and gains 100 attack for each hero monster in your graveyard. This is basically the same effect as elemental hero Escuri Dao, except you can't use Goka to enable a strong super poly, and we don't exactly have a huge offering of effective fire attribute heroes to work with, so I certainly don't hold a flame for this hero. Masked Hero Vapor is a level 6 water monster with 2400 attack and 2000 defense and cannot be destroyed by card effects. Unfortunately, it's still susceptible to targeting, and 2400 is fairly easy to get over in battle when compared to similar monsters, but at least Vapor has completed the States of Matter cycle that Solid and Liquid Soldier set up.
Masked Hero Acid is a level 8 water monster with 2600 attack and 2100 defense. When special summoned, you destroy as many spell and traps your opponent controls as possible, and if you do, all monsters your opponent controls will lose 300 attack. Trust me, makes all the difference. It's very important that he does that. The infamous second part of the Absolute Zero Acid combo. Entwining these two effects leads to a complete board wipe against the opponent, and leaves them open for a full-scale assault. And blowing out the back row may not always seem like the most impactful effect, the chain block does allow Absolute Zero to go off, and it can cause quite an acid splash.
Masked Hero Anki is a level 8 dark monster with 2800 attack and 1200 defense, and can attack directly, but when it does so using that effect, the battle damage inflicted is halved. Also, when they destroy a monster by battle and send it to the grave, you can add a change quick play spell from your deck to your hand. Anki is the definition of an aggro card, pressuring your opponent on all sides to force out answers. If they have an attack position monster that you can get over, sweet. You run over it with Anki and get a search. Is it too big for Anki to defeat? Then you just chip in for 1400 while waiting for your own answer. And since it can be mask changed into existence, Anki can be dropped into the middle of a battle phase at the drop of a hat to cause even more mayhem. Also, side note, Anki has the best drip out of the entire masked hero lineup. Who doesn't want those claw boots?
Masked Hero Dian is a level 8 Earth monster with 2800 attack and 3000 defense. When Dian destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can special summon a level 4 or lower hero from your deck. Dian kind of works like Anki, but trades the wide range of utility for broader search capabilities. Effectively, you can summon a Shadow Mist off of its effect to add a mask or form change like Anki can. You can also summon Stratos for back row removal or to search cards like Honest Neos. Oh, and in a pinch, 3000 defense will hold the line against a lot of attackers. Unfortunately, Solid Soldier is your only viable Earth-type target to use, but as soon as better options become available, I'm positive this card will shine on like the crazy diamond it is.
Masked Hero Divine Wind is a level 8 wind monster with 2700 attack and 1900 defense. They cannot be destroyed by battle, your opponent can only attack with a single monster during each battle phase, and when Divine Wind destroys a monster by battle and sends it to the grave, you can draw a card. This card actually kinda slaps, if only during simplified game states. Normally at that point, effect removal is at an all-time low, so having a monster that owns the battle phase like this, while also helping you draw into cards to put you ahead, is outstanding. However, in just about every other case, its utility is outshined by Blast, as that monster can remove back row threats while actually putting an opponent's monster low enough to get over. In comparison, Divine Wind is little more than some minor turbulence.
Masked Hero Kuga.
It's pronounced Koga?
I've been informed it is Koga. Masked Hero Koga is a level 8 light monster with 2500 attack and 1800 defense, but gains 500 attack for each monster your opponent controls. Once per turn, during either player's turn, you can banish a hero monster from your grave, then target a face-up monster on the field, and that target loses attack equal to the attack of the banished hero until the end of the turn. This acts as a kind of reversed Honest Neos. Instead of dropping monsters out of your hand to gain attack, you banish them out of your grave to make the opponent lose that attack. And even without that, it does an amazing job of punishing your opponent for going wide with their field. Even a single monster bumps them up to 3000, and even one additional monster can put Koga out of reach of a lot of attackers. It's an outrageously powerful monster during the battle phase, and has a bit of a knack for lighting up the battlefield.
Part 3. Vision. Much like how Jaden has a much different deck between the anime and the manga, so too does Aster Phoenix. On the printed page, he wields the Vision Heroes, dark attribute warrior monsters that wear giant helmets with huge zoom lenses. Now, this may seem completely random, but it's actually a pun on an ability many of them share. When you take damage, they can be placed from your grave to your spell and trap zone face up as continuous traps, and during any main phase, you contribute a hero monster you control to special summon them from your spell and trap zone. The first part of this effect is shown in the manga as them returning as ghostly apparitions, or in other words, as visions, which, giant zoom lenses might help out with. Get it? Let's start with the ones that do have this effect. Vision Hero Minimum Ray is a level 3 monster with 1200 attack and 700 defense, and if special summoned from the spell and trap zone, you can destroy a level 4 or lower monster your opponent controls. So it acts as removal, but only for a very thin slice of the game. It can't affect a large majority of extra deck monsters, and its capacity for beating up main deck monsters is limited to the lower third of the level totem pole. Yeah, Ray does something, but honestly, it's the bare minimum. Vision Hero Multiply Guy is a level 3 monster with 800 attack and 700 defense, and if special summoned from the spell and trap zone, you can grant one face-up monster you control a permanent 800 attack boost. When it comes to summoning a lot of Vision Heroes in a row, it's nice to have Multiply Guy as a way to buff another monster as part of the combo. 800 is a huge deal, and can mean the difference between baiting out a negation body to leave the door open for your other plays, and you getting run over by them. They may not seem like much on the surface, but hey, they're a pretty cool guy. Vision Hero Poisoner is a level 3 monster with 900 attack and 700 defense, and if special summoned from the spell and trap zone, you can permanently have the attack of a face-up monster on the field. While Multiply Guy is good for slowly building up a single monster so it can anchor your field, Poisoner excels in turning your opponent's monsters from threats to jokes. I can't think of a single monster in wide use nowadays that, if it had its attack halved, would still be a credible combat threat to any competent normal summon. When it comes to ruining the combat potential of your opponent's monsters, this card does a great job of poisoning the well. Vision Hero Increase is a level 3 monster with 900 attack and 1100 defense, and if special summoned from the Spell and Trap zone, you can special summon a level 4 or lower Vision Hero from your deck. Now this may sound like it's really good for its wide range of options for you to choose from, but honestly, there's only one that matters. It matters a whole lot, don't get me wrong, but since many of your Vision Heroes won't trigger off of this effect, it's not going to do much to increase your options.
Moving away from the ones that can place themselves in the Spell and Trap zone, the preferred target for increased effect is Vision Hero Vion. They are a level 4 monster with 1000 attack and 1200 defense, and when normal or special summoned, you can send a hero monster from your deck to the grave. Also, they can banish a hero from your grave to add a polymerization from your deck to your hand. So even on a normal summon, Vion does a lot for you. You can either send a Malicious to the grave to summon another one, setting up for further plays, or you can send a Shadow Mist to search a hero monster. Then, while it's still on the field, you can just grab a polymerization to make sure you can get access to your fusions. And if you summon them off increase, you can all do this without even committing to your normal summon, making the search option with Shadow Mist even more tantalizing. It may not be the flashiest of the heroes, but it certainly has an eye for planning.
And a great way to set all of this up is with Vision Hero Ferris, a level 5 monster with 1600 attack and 1800 defense. And you can discard another hero monster in your hand to special summon them from your hand. If normal or special summoned in any way, you can place a Vision Hero from your deck to your Spell and Trap zone as a continuous trap, except another copy of itself, and you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except for hero monsters. This is a linchpin for modern day hero builds. The normal summon is a huge choke point that our opponents are more than willing to exploit. But with Ferris's ability to start us off without the normal summon, your opponent now has to contend with your plays on 2 different fronts. It does bite that it locks you into only hero summons from the extra for the rest of the turn, but I think it's more than Ferris.
Vision Hero Gravito is a level 4 monster with 500 attack and 2000 defense. When normal or special summoned, you can target one of your banished heroes and add them to your hand. You can also tribute them to target 2 Vision Heroes in your Spell and Trap zone and special summon them. This is actually a pretty cool summon in any version of modern hero decks, as there's a surprising amount of banishing. Vion and Miracle Fusion are both very powerful effects that set up Gravito to put them back in rotation. And as part of a Vision Hero package, they can get you 2 effects and monsters for the price of 1, meaning that pure decks will likely gravitate towards this card.
Vision Hero Witch Raider is a level 8 monster with 2700 attack and 1900 defense, and you can use trap cards to tribute summon for them, as well as monsters. When normal summoned, you can destroy all spell and trap cards your opponent controls, but you cannot special summon monsters the turn you activate that effect, except for hero monsters. Considering the fact that Vision Heroes can just pop into your back row for free, it won't be too hard to gather the tribute fodder needed for Witch Raider's summon. But since you can tribute any trap card, you can get rid of any floodgates that are holding up your own game plan before clearing out all of your opponent's back row. It's a great card for going second if you anticipate a lot of spell and trap interaction, and they probably have the biggest Renaissance Fair energy I've ever seen in a card.
Apparition is a normal trap that you can activate when a face-up hero monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect. When it resolves, you special summon a level 4 or lower Vision Hero from your deck, then permanently have the original attack and defense of one monster your opponent controls. This frustratingly doesn't get Ferris, but you can still get Vion while still debuffing a powerful monster. But what gets me is that Apparition is effectively another retrain of Hero Signal. It's nice they updated it a little bit, sure, but I still don't think it will appear in deck lists anytime soon. Vision Release is a normal spell that has you targeting a Vision Hero in your Spell and Trap zone and special summoning it. Also, during a main phase in which Vision Release was not sent to the grave, you can banish it to target a Vision Hero in your grave and add it to your hand. This helps you summon out your Vision Heroes if you don't have the tribute fodder to do it with their own effect, but can also summon Vision Heroes that don't have the effect inherently, like Gravito and Vion if you set them there with Ferris. And it can even put Ferris back in your hand so you can use it on later turns. And while it would be strange for you to put Gravito and Vion where you couldn't get them normally, it is nice that this card exists just in case. Because when that happens, they're both figuratively and literally trapped. Vision Fusion is a normal spell that lets you fusion summon any hero monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. But you can also use up to 2 monsters being treated as continuous traps in your spell and trap zone as material by banishing them. Since a lot of newer cards effectively lock you into hero summons, the only thing Polymerization has over this card is the latter's searchability. Some of our fusions can get pretty cost intensive, so using free monsters out of your back row can really help you visualize a new way to victory. And speaking of fusions, Vision Heroes have a few of their own. Vision Hero Adoration is a level 8 fusion monster with 2800 attack and 2100 defense, requiring any 2 hero monsters as material. Once per turn, you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls and 1 other hero monster you control, and your opponent's targeted monster loses attack and defense equal to the attack of your hero that was targeted. In the long hero tradition of manipulating battle stats, Adoration is here to bring their own spin on it, debuffing your opponent's monsters based on what you currently control. While this doesn't quite have the same immediate satisfaction as a card like Koga, Adoration makes for an excellent addition to a lineup, allowing you to debuff at 0 cost, which, in this resource-intensive game, is an effect that we simply adore.
Vision Hero Trinity is a level 8 fusion monster with 2500 attack and 2000 defense, requiring any 3 hero monsters as material. After being fusion summoned for the rest of the turn, Trinity's attack becomes double its original attack. While being fusion summoned, Trinity can attack up to 3 times during each battle phase, but can't ever attack directly. While 3 heroes is a bit much for summoning anything, this card certainly deserves the investment. Wielding a combined damage output of 15,000 on the turn it's summoned, Trinity can turn a fairly developed board against its owner, punching medium-sized creatures for game, or ensuring the removal of the most powerful if that can't be accomplished immediately. And while it loses its Titanic attack stat after that initial turn, it still has 3 attacks to use the rest of the game to make sure the board remains wiped for the rest of your cards. Sometimes the third hero's the charm, it looks like.
Part 4. Extra. This part's going to be pretty short, but I feel like they should at least get their own section for how unique they are. The extra heroes are all Link monsters, and the first, tournament legal, hero extra deck monster to be anything other than a fusion, and were a clear concession to Master Rule 4's reliance on Link monsters to use any other extra deck mechanic. Nowadays, they aren't quite as important for their Link arrows, but they thankfully come with some wildly powerful effects. We've already covered Cross Crusader in issue 2, and Infernal Devicer earlier in this issue, so let's start with Extra Hero Wonder Driver. They're a Link 2 Light Warrior monster with 1900 attack, requiring 2 hero monsters as material. If a hero monster is normal or special summoned to your zone this card points to, you can target a Polymerization spell card, Fusion spell card, or change quick play spell in your grave and set it to your field. Also, if they're destroyed by battle, or by an opponent's effect while in your possession and sent to the grave, you can special summon any hero monster from your hand. That last effect is rather situational, so you shouldn't worry too much about activating it as anything more than an insurance policy. Rather, think of it as a way to reuse a fusion spell to extend your turns before folding Wonder Driver into our Link 3, which we'll get into in a bit. Suffice it to say, this little wonder really helps kick your engines into overdrive. Extra Hero Dread Decimator is a Link 3 Dark Warrior monster with 2500 attack, requiring 2 or more hero monsters. They deal piercing battle damage, and they gain 100 attack for each hero monster with different names in your grave, and also grants that bonus to any hero monster they point to. This card acts as the final and most important piece for your OTKs. The amount of attack gained across your entire field by this one effect quickly gets out of control. It does nothing to advance your actual game plan, but as a destination, your opponent's gonna dread dealing with it. Part 5. Postscript. This section covers cards that don't quite fit into any other categories we've gone over so far, but should still be covered nonetheless.
Phantom Magician is a level 3 dark spellcaster with 600 attack and 700 defense, and when destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a hero with 1000 or less attack from your deck in face-up defense position. This card had a brief stint in the GX manga, effectively being used as a floater to get a Vision hero, which explains why it can only grab heroes with such small attack stats. But despite the low ceiling on attack points, it can still summon some pretty relevant monsters like Shadow Mist and Vion. It can even summon Woodsman in the perfect position, solving a lot of the card's issues. And honestly, it's probably the best magic trick I've ever seen from a spellcaster monster.
UFO-Roid Fighter is a level 10 light machine fusion monster with question mark attack and defense, requiring a UFO-Roid and any warrior type monster as material, and its original attack and defense become the combined original attack of the two monsters used for its fusion summon. It has absolutely nothing to do with heroes, but it did debut in the anime as a fusion of Jaden's elemental hero Tempest and Cyrus's UFO-Roid, making it another in a long line of monsters that combine a protagonist's monster with one of their best friends.
E-Hero Pit Boss is a rank 6 light spellcaster Xyz monster with 2600 attack and 2k defense. It requires 3 level 6 monsters. They must be Xyz summoned and can't be special by other ways. If Pit Boss attacks your opponent directly and reduces their life points to 0 while it has an Xyz material that was originally a spellcaster monster, you win the match, but you can't actually use it in officially recognized tournaments because it's part of the prize card family. They can turn a best of 3 into a best of 1. Notable pieces of trivia: this isn't an elemental hero, but an entertainment hero, coming at us straight from the glitz and glam of the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship 2013 held in Las Vegas. I can't imagine how much they must have had to pay to reserve the venue though, because odds are, it's pretty pricey.
And speaking of World Championship promos, Get Your Game On is a continuous spell that you can only play if you were present for the 2007 Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading Card Game World Championship, and while it's on the field, the attack of all your elemental heroes and Neospatians on the field are doubled. This reminds me of that Pokemon TCG card, the Birthday Pikachu, where you can write your name into the card's name and get a bonus effect if it was your birthday. It'd be very hard to disprove you were at said World Championship if you're old enough, but imagine if you got to have a 5,000 attack Neos monster. That's certainly an awesome way to play!
Favorite Hero is an equipped spell that can only be equipped to a level 5 or higher hero monster. If you control any card in your field zone, the equipped monster gains attack equal to its original defense, and also the opponent cannot target the equipped monster with card effects. At the start of the battle phase, you can activate a field spell from your hand or deck, and when the equipped monster attacks and destroys a monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, the attacking monster can make a second attack in a row. This makes for an outstanding piece of protection that can be set up for some very spicy situations. Equip it to a Neos fusion and you can ensure that Neospace is on the field and ready to help. Equip it to Dark Claw, play any utility field spell you want, and have an untargetable Floodkeep monster with 4200 attack. Or put it on Elemental Hero Mariner, use Favorite Hero to set up Mystic Mine, and you can attack directly all day long with 2400 attack points of damage. But unfun game stays aside, I do honestly think it's amazing that, provided it meets the level requirements, you can literally grant this to your favorite hero monster to elevate them to new heights.
Well, back at class, they never taught us this. Generation Next is a quick play spell that you can only activate if your life points are lower than your opponent's. When it resolves, you add to your hand or special summon an E-Hero, Karibo, or Neospatian from your deck or grave with an attack equal or less in difference to the life points of you and your opponent. But for the rest of the turn, you can't activate cards or effects of the same name as the card you grabbed. Drawing from GX, both the name of the series and its opening theme, Generation Next is an interesting search card that gets better the tougher the times and harder the climbs. While the effect freeze that hinders any instant gratification is pretty hit or miss, you can still activate this on your opponent's turn, add the card to your hand, and then just use it when it rolls back over to your turn to help out with your next play. With this by your side, you'll make the grade and win the fight, but you better play your cards right. Game on, get your game on. Come on, you better play your cards.
Okay, time for the cameos. Fusion Tag isn't specifically hero support, but it does have Sparkman and Flame Wingman on it. And speaking of other appearances, Air Neo shows up on Dimension Explosion, and Flame Wingman shows up in Cross Dimensional Duel, as well as in Hero Ring. Hero Metal also bears the name, and looks like some kind of hero is wearing it, but it's basically just a worse Waking the Dragon. We've also got a couple of cards with dual discs in them that have close enough names. Destruction of Destiny was used by Aster, basically as a self-mill card to fuel Shining Phoenix Enforcer, and Heroes Rule 2 was used by Jaden, which is a sequel to the anime-only card Heroes Rule 1. A Hero Emerges is very similar to Hero Counterattack, but features Zombira the Dark. This is likely another reference to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga, as Zombira is based on or influenced by an American superhero in the fiction of the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga known as Zombire, a god of death that fights for justice! And with that, we've covered every hero card printed thus far. Make sure to subscribe so you can catch the Heroes Explained Omnibus Edition, where all the issues will be combined into a single gigantic video for your binging pleasure. And while you're down there, check out the description. As well as helping to support me in making more crazy videos like this, you should also support the wonderful Yu-Gi-Oh! Personalities that helped voice this video. Corbinisms, Acorian, JC Theater Yu-Gi-Oh!, Dire Yu-Gi-Oh!, TCG Tally, Hawkatana, NovaYugioh, This Lifer Slacker, Karma ZVT, Nightmare 88, Mage of Ancients, Porcelain, and Red Eyes Jackalow. I'd also like to take this time to thank my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commander, J. Eerie Boy, as well as Nebula Navigators, Genesis Yu-Gi-Oh!, the Wizard Moose, and the Fresh Prince of Conair, our Cosmic Crusaders, Chaz Ghost, Colin Todd, Panda PLS, and Legendary Raven, as well as the wonderful Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. If you like what you saw and want to help fund the future of this channel, please consider joining as a YouTube member. It's basically just like a Twitch sub, or supporting me on Patreon, all of which come with some pretty sweet perks. And if this is the first Hero Explained video that you've seen, make sure to catch it from the beginning with my video on Elemental Heroes. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.